Well, hey, good morning to you. Welcome to Wake Up to Revelation, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse because, number one, it's written to us. If you consider yourself a servant of Jesus Christ, not just a follower, but a servant, this book is written directly to you. That's how this book starts in Revelation 1:1. But more so, it promises us blessings, that there are certain blessings that only you get when you take the time to read and understand the words that are written in this prophecy. But also, in addition to that, I believe it's incredibly important to read the book of Revelation for just your sense of peace of mind. It gives you hope. It's a book filled with hope. When you see, the world's filled with fear, this is hope. And when you see these things begin to happen, most people are going to be filled with fear, but people like you and I will be filled with hope because we know what's actually taking place. And where we are is John is in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and Jesus appears to him in a voice that sounds like a trumpet, and he turns to look and see him. And the way that Jesus looks, it's incredibly important we not just go, oh, he looked this way. Like every word matters. So we're going to kind of just continue there where we left off, Revelation 1, starting verse 12. Then I turned to see the voice that spoke with me, and having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the feet, and girded about the chest with a golden band. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes like a flame of fire. All right, that's where we're going to stop today, because last time we talked about the hair being white as snow, like wool. And this time we're going to focus on the eyes of fire, because having eyes of fire is not something that is just like something you just wanted. Obviously Jesus can appear any way he wants, but he appears for a certain reason for a reason. The eyes of fire have deep, deep purpose. So we're just going to dig through that a bit. Now, there's a moment in time where Daniel sees Jesus as well, and he looks the same way. And I want to kind of say before I get into this, that there's a few pieces here that some people might say, no, that means something else, or that means something different. That's okay. But it is what it says. So Daniel 10 is the last vision that Daniel has in the book of Daniel. And there's 2 distinct figures that appear to him. First, Jesus appears to him, and then he goes unconscious. And then somebody that looks like he came from the sons of men, and not the son of man, which we talked about before, but the sons of men. Meaning this guy looks like he was human, like he looked human, but not like this first guy. And a lot of times people think it's the same guy. So you kind of have to distinct, they're 2 different personalities here that he's dealing with. So we're going to go to Daniel 10, verse 4. And on the 24th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river that is the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose waist was girded with gold of Uphaz. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire. His arms and feet like burning bronze in color, and the sound of his words like the voice of a multitude. All right, now the reason people are often, and I don't want to get into this, but oftentimes the reason people will argue, well, this isn't Jesus, is because once you get to verse 10, well, he's gone unconscious in verse 9, and then in verse 10, somebody wakes him up, and it's a different person, and he talks about how he couldn't beat the Prince of Persia, and Michael had to help him get there. So people go, well, clearly that's not Jesus, but it's 2 different people. And again, it is what it is, but he has an eyes of flaming fire. And again, it's not like he had eyes of flaming fire when he appeared to John there, and then he didn't in other places. Like, this is his normal appearance, because when we go in Revelation 20, when he comes back to judge and make war, or 19, I'm sorry, it says, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no one knew except himself. So clearly Jesus, and what John sees first and foremost is it's Jesus in his glorified body standing in, he stands in the presence of God, and this is what he looks like. But what John sees with his eyes of a flame of fire, there's again a reason for it. This is clearly Jesus. He's manifesting himself to different people at different times. But this is clearly him. And the flame in his eyes, we're going to see, has a lot to do with us. It has a lot to do with us. Let's kind of dig around. We're going to dig around the Old Testament and the New Testament. We're going to use the Bible as a cross-reference, see what do these flaming eyes mean? What do they mean? All right, so we're going to go to 1 Corinthians real quick. Chapter 3, verse 12. Now, if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become manifest, for the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test each one's work, of what sort it is. If anyone's work, which he has built on it, endures, he will receive reward. If anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. So there's this judgment fire that takes place that we'll all go through, where we are consumed by fire. And all of our works that are of God are refined like gold and silver. All our works that are of the world burn up like sticks and stubble into ash. And we have gains or we have losses based on this judgment fire. So it's a testing of one's works to start with. Let's go to Exodus 3. And this is where God appears to Moses in the burning bush. And it says this in 2. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burned with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Now, this angel of the Lord is God. The angel of the Lord is God. All right. Now, again, I'm not going to get into that. But in this case, it clearly says this is God. Because it goes on to say, then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw, all caps, saw that he turned aside and to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. Verse 6, moreover, he said, I am God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. So God appears in the midst of a flame. And the Jews were redeemed because of what was said in the flame of that bush. Like he appears in the midst of a flame that is not consuming. Now, God is all consuming. So the fact that this isn't getting consumed is a big deal too. It's a whole other subject. But ultimately what you have here is a flame will test your works. And God is in the midst of a flame when he appears to Moses. And it does not consume, even though he's all consuming. And stay with me. We're going to kind of wrap all this up at the end. But here's what we know. God is in the midst of a flame. He appears in the midst of a flame. It is going to judge our works. And it is the eyes of God that see our works. Like this is what sees what we do. God's eyes go to and fro throughout the whole earth looking for those that are about his business. He sees that stuff. That's why his eyes are aflame. Let's keep going. We're going to go to Numbers 11. Here, there's this moment in time where the Hebrews are just complaining about a bunch of stuff, as they always seem to do in the Exodus. But if we go to Numbers 11 verse 1. Now when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, for the Lord heard it, and his anger was aroused. So the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some in the outskirts of the camp. So here the fire is also his anger, his wrath. So his fire tests your works. It redeems, but it's also his wrath and anger. It's also that. But let's keep going. Again, we'll wrap it all up at the end, I promise. If we go to Acts 2, verse 1. Now, when the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all with one accord in one place, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. So it's the Holy Spirit as well. Really what you have is in Jesus' eyes, he has the testing of men. He has anger and wrath. He has the Holy Spirit. He has redemption. And it's all there. It's all there in his eyes. And for us, there's this day where he says, I know you or I didn't know you. And he always knew you. Like it's not like he doesn't know you. Like he always knew you. He knew the hairs on your head when you were in your mother's womb. But what he means by I don't know you is he's intimate with the Spirit. It's in his eyes. And he'll see you and he'll see that the Spirit is not there. And if the Spirit's not there, I don't know you. If the Spirit is there, come, enter into paradise. It's pretty straightforward as far as, why Jesus does or does not know you, but understanding these flames. Then I turned to see the voice that spoke with me, and having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. In the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his feet, girded about the chest with a golden band. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes like a flame of fire. It's a redeeming fire. It's a testing fire. It's a judging fire. It's a wrath fire. It's the Holy Spirit fire. It's so much in the eyes of Jesus Christ. There's so much there, and in the end, it's coming as judgment. It is eyes of flaming fire.